Welcome back, game developers. Today I'm going to show you guys how to implement a common optimization mechanic into your game easily. You're going to learn level streaming and how to utilize it, as well as best practices to achieve the best results. If you guys are new to the channel, it would mean a lot if you could subscribe, as I make Unreal Engine and game development videos frequently for everyone to learn and enjoy. So, quick backstory before we get into how to use level streaming in Unreal Engine. I think it's important to learn what level streaming is and what it accomplishes in game. Level streaming is a tool in a game engine that allows you, the game developer, to section off certain parts of the map and essentially unload them so the user playing your game doesn't have unnecessary calls to textures or meshes that aren't even being rendered in your actual scene. The idea is whatever the player is not seeing should automatically be unloaded from the scene in order to increase performance and overall playability of your game. This makes it one of the most important optimization techniques to learn and to master. Now back to Unreal Engine. In order to start level streaming in your level, you want to go up all the way to the left and go to this window tab and make sure you have levels checked. And once you do, you'll want to make sure to dock it somewhere in your editor. Right here I have it in the bottom right, and I have some levels already here, but I'm going to show you guys how to replicate this now. So once you have this, you want to also make sure to have this level streaming volume right here around everything you want to be level streamed. In my case, it is only this part just for demonstration purposes, so we'll go into it right now and check out what I have made. So if we go in, and if you go out of this scene right now and check where we are, you'll see that these two rooms that were just apparent are no longer appearing. That's because we are in a level stream right here that is specifically tailored to only show the beginning room and what we can actually see from this point of view. So now if we go back into the level, and if I go over here, you can see that now this is the only thing we can see. We can see this room 1 as well as the beginning room. So this is, room 2. You can see I have it sectioned off right here. So room 1 right here is the one that is disappearing. That one is not showing because it's not in the render distance. We set it up to be like this. So now, conversely, if I go over here and do the exact same thing, you can see that it is like this now. Only room 1 shows and room 2 is not showing because we have set it up just like so. Now I also set it up so if I press 1 on my keyboard, I can go through this door and I can go right into here. You can see that now, since we are in the room, we should probably make it so we can't see any of the other things around the map. So we have, if I go into right here, you can see all of this is not showing except for some architectural things, but that's because it's in the persistent level, meaning that's going to show no matter what. So we have it so we are in this part of the map and we don't appear anything else, but what happens is once we leave this, we want to render it again. So we have another trigger box right here that when we go into it, it seamlessly loads all of this stuff and makes it so now we can see exactly what we're made to see. This wall right here and the wall behind this door, since it is glass door. So if we go right back and do the same exact thing on the other side, it works that way as well. I go right into here and you can see now we are in this room, and conversely the same exact thing happens. Only some architectural things that are in the persistent level appear, or things that we are actually looking at since we're in room 2. So now if I go back in, you can see that it seamlessly transitions between the levels, and you can see down here as I go through, the levels will change their appearance versus if they're on or off. So yeah, let's create this right now and I'll show you guys exactly how to create it. All right, so I got rid of all of the trigger boxes. Essentially what we're going to want to do is make sure that our level is sectioned off into parts first. So you can see right here I built a pretty simple level, and all I want is a room 1, which is this level right here, a room 2, which is this level right here, and a beginning room, which is the middle part that you start at. For demonstration purposes, I will create another room, which will be very simple to see. Basically, all you're going to want to do is just get some architecture just so we can show it. So what we'll do is we'll place some levels around, and you can see right here, we could place some architecture and just make it so this part right here is just like this, and we can kind of just duplicate this just so it's a little square, just so I can show you guys how to make it so you can have your own level streaming levels of your game, just so everything looks great. So now you can see right here I have this small little cubicle type of thing, and all I want to do is I want to make sure that this is being level streamed as well and into its own level. If I want to do that, all I have to do is go to levels right here, press create new with selected actors, and you can see right now it'll pop up this menu, save level as. What I could do is I can call this example level. After this, I'll press the save button, and you can see right down here now we have this example level. I'll make sure to save everything, and what you can see is we can minimize it and it'll automatically go away. So now this is something that we can either dynamically change to be on or off or on. Also, this is the same exact mechanic that I use for making these different levels, so it's really nothing that special, just making it so you can differentiate. And also if you make it so, for example, your wall right here was supposed to be in a different level, all you have to do is make sure that you highlight it or click on it, and then right click on where you do want it to be and move selected actor to level. It's that simple. You can just make it so now this is a part of a different level. So for example, if I move this selected actor to the, for example level, if I move it, now if I get rid of this one, it'll also get rid of that actor, making it very simple. I'm gonna undo that just so that it goes back to where it normally is. So if I get rid of example level, that will still stay there. So now that you guys know how to create these levels, I'm going to basically delete this level. So if you want to delete this level, all you have to do is delete all the actors. So we can do that and press this, go to edit and delete. So now that we removed all of the actors, all you want to do is, I just did it, but all you want to do is just right click on it and go to remove selected. So basically you would just remove selected, it would remove everything from that level and also remove the level itself, and it can't be undone. So make sure that when you do it, you really do want to remove everything from that level. Great, so now that we know how to add things to levels, remove things from levels, and make sure that everything is sectioned off, we want to now make sure that we can start doing the mechanics so that we can make it so the beginning room is always appearing in the beginning, and then afterward we can handle the room 1 or room 2 visibility. To do this, we want to go into the top left, make sure we go to all classes and look for something called a trigger box. This is a simple way to do it. There are more advanced ways to do it, but if you want to just get started with it and make sure that everything is loading and unloading, this is a very simple way to do it. So all you want to do is make sure you have this trigger box and make sure that for our case, it is not hidden in game, just so we can see exactly where it is. So we can set it to be right in the middle of the screen. We want to size it up to be a little bit bigger and make it just like so, just so that the player can definitely see it and we can definitely be inside of it. Just like this seems good, maybe a little bit wider, and that seems all good to me. Basically, this is going to be the middle collision box or the beginning room collision box. So what I'll do is I'll rename it TB_beginning room. And this will be, when we overlap with this collision, it will always spawn just this beginning room, just so we're saving performance and not rendering these two other rooms. Conversely, I will duplicate this and create another one. So we'll call this one TB_room1. And so in that case, we want to make sure that we have the right room selected. So this is room 2 and this is room 1. So what we'll do is we'll make it so room 1 is right here. And if you're in this area, it will automatically spawn room 1. Basically meaning that you should be able to see this area of room 1 from this window right here, just so that there's no time where you're looking out of the map, for example, if this isn't apparent. So we'll have that one as room 1, then we can duplicate it again and make it basically so there is a room 2. So we can move it over here, bring it over just like this, and just like this seems good. We essentially want to make it so this one will show room 2. So we could call it TB_room2. Great, so now that we have these, we want to make sure that once we go through these doors, that only certain things appear. So if we're in this room, we only want this room to show up, as well as maybe this wall, for example. So if you're in this room and you only want this room to show up, what you can do is you can make it so only this wall is a part of room 2 as well. So basically you can see I've done that right here. It makes it so if I get rid of beginning room, it still looks the exact same. You can see that I can get rid of both of those other ones, but the viewport in here looks the exact same as before. This means that it'll save performance, but also still look the same for the player. This is vital, so it's really important to make your rooms and levels look this way. So now that we have that settled like this, you can basically make it so if we're in this room, we want to get rid of beginning room and we want to get rid of room 1. We only want this to be shown. Great, so now that means that we want to make another trigger box for inside of this room. So we can just duplicate this again and move this over here just like so, rotate it and bring it inside of this room. So let's size this up a bit and bring it over here. Basically, if we're in this area, we want it to be just showing room 2. So we can call it TB_in_room2. And this is room 2, correct? Yes, it is. So we can just call this in room 2. Now, once we're in here though, if we walk out of it, it will still only be showing this, which is not good. We want to now show the hallway. So in doing that, we also need another trigger box to make it so we can see everything inside of the hallway again. So what we want to do is we want to duplicate this again and make sure that we have another one, and we can size it down. We kind of want it to be like this gap way right here in the door, as well as a little bit inside the room, so there's time to render between. This is a best practice, just so it doesn't just appear right before your eyes and you can see it going from nothing, just like this, for example, to then popping up. You don't want it to do that. You want it to seamlessly appear. So in doing that, you want to make sure there's a transition or buffer between, making it inside this room and also inside of this room. So in doing that, we're just going to call this TB_transition room 2. And so now once we go over this, it will transition between the two. Now we're going to want to do the same exact thing for over here. So we'll quickly make that. And again, it's just going to be when you're inside of the room itself. So let's move this in, move it over, and we're going to want to make it so we're inside this room. We want to only see this room. So let's size it up, size it over here, just like so, and bring it over. And now similarly, when we're out of here, we want to transition and make it so this is not apparent. So we can make it a little bit smaller and keep it just like so. So when we're right in here, we are going to make it so we don't see that at all. So we see all of this. Great, so now keep it like this, and let's make sure we rename them to be exactly what they should be. So this should be TB underscore in room 1 to align with in room 2. And this one can be TB underscore transition room 1. So now everything is aligned. We have the beginning room, which is simply just this area. We have the in room 1, in room 2, which are simply for being inside of the rooms. And we have room 1, which should show all of room 1 right here. And then we have room 2, which should show all of room 2 right here, as well as the transitions to make it so they seamlessly go between one and the other. So now that we have this, we can start working on how to actually make these things appear in our game. One thing to make sure of is to go over all of your trigger boxes and make sure they're all existing inside the persistent level. You can move selected actors to level. If they're not, you want this to all be inside the persistent level, because if it isn't, we can't actually access any of this in our event graph. So what I'll do is I'll delete all of this because this is the existing code. This is also just to get rid of the doors. Again, it has to be inside of our persistent level if we want to access it from our graph. So for example, this is not in the persistent level because this is in the beginning room. So if I select this and go into the level blueprint, you'll see if I right click, it won't pop up right here to do anything with it. It has to be in the persistent level. So for example, if I get rid of all of these things, and you can see these are all the items in the persistent level. If I click on this wall, for example, and if I right click, now I can reference it because it's in the persistent level. Great, so now let's bring everything back and let's make it so we can start dynamically loading and unloading. Well, by default, when we're in the level, we want to make sure that on begin play, since we're spawning right in this little area, we want to only show what's in this level, as in what's in the beginning room. We only want to show this, so there's some handy nodes that we can use. Basically, we're going to want to load level stream, or load stream level by name. And since we have their names already, we know that it's beginning room, room 1, or room 2 before we made the example level. So you can see that was also another one. We can go right into here and we can load beginning room. And to make sure that it actually loads, we want to make visible after load. After this, we're going to want to make sure that we unload it. So what we can do is we can unload stream level by name, of course. And then we want to make sure that we unload room 1 and unload room 2. So you can duplicate this and make sure that you also unload room 2. Now what you'll see is on begin play, once I go into this area, once I tab out, we're in the game right now, but you can see room 1 and room 2 are not apparent. This was not how it was before. Obviously, we're going to have to make it so these things are apparent once we overlap with these. But before, when this wasn't attached, you could see that when it was just like this, nothing was apparent. So that's why it's important that you make sure that everything is hooked up to your begin play. So you load a certain level and it knows which one to load. Otherwise, it will only show the persistent level if you don't hook up anything to the begin play. So now that we have this set up like this, we want to make sure that we start doing something with these trigger boxes. So for example, if I go into room 2, this trigger box right here, I want to show the room 2 area or level in our level streaming. So what I'll do is I'll go to this room 2, I'll make sure I have it clicked, right click and go into the level blueprint, go to add event, go to collision and go to add on actor begin overlap. So you can see right here, this is when we overlap the actor, what's going to happen. This is the event for that. So when we overlap this room 2, we essentially want it to not show room 1, keep showing beginning room because we're inside of this room still, but we want it to now show this room 2 because now we're in an area where we should see all of this. So it's pretty simple. So we want to keep streaming the beginning room, obviously, because we're still in the beginning room in this sequence, and then make sure that now we also do room 2 because now we are in an area where we should be able to see room 2. What we can do is it's also best practice to make sure that you unload room 1, even though it might already be unloaded, you want to make sure that it is truly unloaded no matter where you go, and make sure it always is unloaded once you're in this trigger box. So now what you can see is it will make sure that it only loads the things we need loaded. We can continuously do this if we go to drag this down a little bit, that's just for testing purposes, but if we do the same exact thing with this room 1. So let's click on that, now go in and right click and go to add event, collision, and add on begin actor overlap. So So we can drag that in just like so and do the same exact type of thing. We can copy this and basically paste it and start editing inversely what we need. So we still need beginning room to show. Now we want the room 1 to show, and we want room 2 to disappear. So it's that simple. We can just do it like so. And so now what you'll see is once we go into the level, if we go to this area, this will appear. If we go right here, it will not appear. Nothing is shown. So if you go over, you see that it's not there. Actually, if I'm in the actual, I have to make sure that I'm in the actual level streaming. Sometimes you want to make sure it's bigger so it doesn't happen like that. You can see that this one's overlapping a bit right there. So this one will appear and then that one will not appear. It's all dependent, but basically it's going to make it so if you're in the position where none of them will appear, none of them will appear. But as you can see, mine's overlapping a little bit, so I could change that in a second. But essentially it's going to make it so they seamlessly fade in and out. And if you can see on the right here, it's deleting actors and creating them at different times when you're overlapping these trigger boxes. So you can see right there, all the ones that turned gray, all the ones that turned yellow, they're all being spawned dynamically, making it so they seamlessly come in and out of the level. You can also see that in the bottom right of the screen, right down here, you can see that there's certain things that are being spawned and unspawned every single time we go to certain areas of the map. This is level streaming, but let's also make sure that when we're in this room, for example, that everything on this side of the map is not being spawned, because we don't want this to be spawned. We don't want this to be seen. We only want this room to be seen, since that's all we're looking at in the character's point of view. So what we'll do is we'll keep going with that now. So all we want to do is we want to go to make sure it's all seen for a second and think about how we want to do this. So if we're in room 1, that means we only want to see what's in the room 1's point of view, or only in the room 1 level. So right here, you can see that I set up this wall because I know that if you're in this room, you're probably still going to look at this wall. So all we have to do is make sure we're on this in room 1, go back to our level, and I'll go over to this area, for example, right click, add event, collision, add on begin actor overlap. I want to only load level 1 or room 1 and get rid of all of the other levels. So what I can do is I can copy this since I know it's right there and bring it in like so, and then make sure that room 2 is not seen, of course, and make sure that the beginning room is also not seen. So let's make sure that beginning room, and make sure you spell it right. It's all important for syntax how you spell it. Beginning room is not seen. So now if I'm in this part of the level, it will not be seen. Let's test it and go into the level. If I go into room 1, if I go over like this, oh, I didn't do it in the actual editor. Let me check right now. If I go into room 1, and if I go over here, you can see that now this whole area is not seen. Only the things in the persistent level are seen. Like we said earlier, those things will never change unless you get rid of the persistent level. Then all of that will go away. But you can't do that while you're in game, obviously, like that. But if you're in this level, you can see that now everything else is gone. Only the things in room 1 are showing. So this is great. This is exactly what we want. But the problem is when we go out, the things are still not apparent. That's why we have the transition level. So what we'll do is we'll go back and we'll make sure that now we create the same thing for the transition level. So if you're in this transition level, you probably want to show room 1 still, but you also want to show the beginning room, or this room right here, because this is what the character will be able to see. So what we'll do is we'll make sure to do that same exact logic. Let's make sure that we're hovering over transition room 1, go into here, go to add event, add on begin actor overlap again, and make sure that we load the room 1 still. Make sure that we load the beginning room now, so we can bring that in like so, and make sure that we unload room 2 still, because that's still not able to be seen from our point of view. And so now if we go to room 1, go over here, you can see that now we can walk in and out and it's automatically doing what it should be doing, making it unload and load assets as we move around. So now we can do the same exact thing for room 2. If I get rid of this, you can see that now once we're in here, it's still making it so we want to be able to go through, in and out, and you can see right there, we need to make sure it automatically works dynamically. So let's make sure that we go to our room 2 now and do the same exact logic. So if we're in our room 2, so we need our in room 2 right here. Let's go to our in room 2 and make sure that we go over that and right click and do the same exact logic. So add event, collision, make sure that you add this. And so for in room 2, we only want to show room 2. So we can copy this and basically bring it over. Make sure that only room 2 is seen. So you can do room 2 right here. Make sure that beginning room is unloaded and make sure that room 1 is unloaded. Same thing with the transition of room 2. We know this now. We basically want to highlight over it, go into here, go to our collision, add event, add on begin actor overlap, bring that in, and make sure that now it's the same exact thing. We only want to show now the beginning room and the room 2, because that's all that's going to be able to be seen from the area right here. So if we're in this area, you can see that we can see room 2 and also the beginning room or this hallway area. So now because of that, we want to make sure both of them are seen. So what we can do is we can go to make sure we load room 2. So copy that and make sure that we load the beginning room just like so. So let's bring in the beginning room. And just like so, now that's loaded, and we can unload room 1 still. So now we have a section where all of that is handled. Now we can also make it so these don't overlap a bit. So I'll just make this a little bit smaller, just like so. So you can see in this area, it's just like that. You can also make this a little bit smaller, move it over. Just so I can show you for demonstration purposes what it actually looks like. So let me move it over a little bit, just so it is all the way it should be. So yeah, tinkering with these is very important to make sure that it looks the way that you actually want it. So if you go back in, and if we're in this area, you can see right now, only thing that is loaded is the beginning room level, this level right here. Now if we go into this area over here, you can see that seamlessly it loads in the beginning room 1. So this room 1 right here, sorry, not beginning room, or it does load beginning room and room 1. That's because right here we want it to load beginning room as well as room 1. Now if we go to this area over here, it's going to make sure that it will load the room 2 as well as the beginning room as well, because that's the areas that we can see from this point of view. So now if we go and press 1, you can see that that door opens and this will dynamically load, and you can see in this point now everything that is not in the map is not going to be shown, and if we go back, it seamlessly loads everything that is supposed to be shown from our point of view, and now this room 2 is not shown. Going through, the same exact thing will happen. Now if I press room 2, you want to go in here and make sure that everything is shown just like so. So now you can see nothing else is seen except for the persistent level. Once we go out, it will load it dynamically. So this is exactly what we want. So everything works the way it is supposed to, and everything loads dynamically. Now for a little bit of advice so that your levels will look correct, if you guys have pretty big levels, you want to make sure that if you have levels that are in and out, so exterior and interior, you want it so that you can differentiate between the exterior of a house versus the interior. So for example, let's say you're using this building right here. If you're standing in this point of view, you only want to show what can be seen from this point of view, because I'm sure there are many assets inside, which will make it hard to render all of them all at once. So for example, if I'm in this point of view, I don't want to show this room, for example. I want to make sure this room is level streamed and not shown. Same thing with this room, or however many rooms you have. So it's really important to make sure that your level streaming is persistent and make sure that it all goes per room basis. You only want the things in the persistent level that need to be seen from different points of views, or that you want to affect in the actual level blueprint. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you guys learned something and learned how to use level streaming in Unreal Engine. If you guys have any questions or comments or anything you want to suggest for new future videos or anything like that, leave them down in the comments below. And if you guys enjoyed this video, it would mean a lot if you could like, subscribe, and comment down below more videos you guys would like to see in the future. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next tutorial. Bye guys.